thank you all for joining. Sorry for the little bit of weirdness that happened earlier, but we are excited to host you tonight. Our goal tonight is for you all to interact, ask questions, and that Zoom is actually perfect for that. We want you guys to ask questions. We want you to ask follow-up questions and anything that has to do with fasting, anything that has to do with, like the mental aspect of wellness, because it is a mentality, it is a lifestyle. And anything else that you think that we might be able to help you guys with, tonight is the night to ask those questions. I'm also going to tell you guys right now, since we're kind of getting started, I want to let you all know that our R72 challenge is launching today. So for some of you all, you've already got the invitation via email, but we are launching the fasting challenge, and I wanted to make sure that you guys were aware of that because we get a ton of questions about our challenges. It's going to be starting May 26th, and I'm going to put the link in the chat for you guys. So if you want to join, you can join us. Um, it's one of those experiences that if you've never been in a challenge, you don't know what you're missing. It's like that. A lot of people think, oh, it's just whatever, it's just another program. It's not. It's an immersive experience that you get to have with other like-minded individuals who are focused. You get coaching. We've got the coaching team to help guide you guys. We've got core content that we release when we do our challenges. It is a completely unique experience. If you've never experienced it, I would encourage you guys to join. It'll be one of the best investments in your wellness. So I'm gonna put the link for that in the chat. And then, like I said, I'm gonna kick the ball back over to Justin. I think you got some questions we're gonna kind of get started with, and then we're gonna start. I'll ask the rest of the panel if you guys got some questions that you just want to address, and then we're gonna start taking questions from the chat.
Yeah, so I do have a bunch of beginner level fasting questions that I've collected from my different videos. But if you don't mind, I'd actually like to jump right to, and I apologize if I'm saying your name wrong. Drea 2 Cents asked a question right off the bat. She said, I didn't know about fasting for weight loss, and I'm down 100 using a calorie deficit meal plan, and I have a lot of loose skin. Is there anything I can do about the loose skin now? And Steven, correct me if I'm wrong, but you've got some experience with this. Is that right? Can I pitch this to you?
Throw me the rock.
Yeah, here it comes.
So yes, I'll say this: the marvelous thing about fasting, and this is just kind of for everybody, but the marvelous thing about fasting is that we have to understand what it does. And you mentioned that you had some other kind of beginner kind of fasting questions, but to kind of get to understand what fasting does, we kind of have to go back to the beginning. So the thing that makes fasting so powerful is the process of what is called autophagy. And for those of you who don't know what autophagy means, to make this as very simple as possible, autophagy means self-eat. That is the root of that word. So what the body does when you are in a period of fasting, it goes through and it eats old damaged cells, old damaged proteins. So loose skin is a cell that has been dehydrated, and at this point it is now damaged. So while going through a period of fasting directly targets damaged cells, dehydrated cells, cells that are not replicating properly and multiplying properly. Fasting and autophagy goes through and eats them. It basically turns on the intelligence version of the cell to then go and attack viruses and bacteria and remove zombie and sentient cells. It helps to destroy free radicals. So these are cells that are looking for an extra electron, and these are cells that eventually turn cancerous as well. So fasting goes through and it literally, through the period of autophagy, destroys and eats those. So this is why if you go through fasting, and I'll bring this full circle. But if you lose a lot of weight with fasting, you will not have loose skin, period. Right? Now, if you already are in a situation where you have loose skin, then fasting can absolutely help. Depending on, of course, where you started from, right? I know you said you lost 100 pounds. depending on where you started from, what your highest weight was, right, where you are currently, right, it will determine what fasting can do. We do have to understand, and I love the way when Chris says this, but fasting is not a panacea, so it's not a catch-all. It's not going to get everything, right? But it has the ability to then make everything better. So can fasting absolutely help with current loose skin? 100%. And that's a conversation that we can kind of get into when we get into like juice fasting, or as well, because juice fasting does a very good job of helping with loose skin as well, because you get the extra hydration from what juice brings, as well as the vitamins and the minerals, all the micronutrients that juice brings as well. But fasting will absolutely assist, but you can't expect it to then take you looking like your 18-year-old self. So I want to make sure that we manage expectations, but it can absolutely help if you start now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thanks for that, Stephen. That's solid. Because Chris, you and I, we've talked about this before. I lost 45 pounds in 2.5 months, and I've got stretch marks, but I never had any loose skin because I used fasting in order to lose the weight. And so that's a question I get often too. It's like, I've got loose skin. Is fasting going to help? And that's nice to hear that from you, Stephen, that it can. But we always say results may vary, right? But if you stick
Yeah.
with it, it's certainly, I like saying too, though, man, like it certainly isn't going to hurt anything. In all likelihood, it will help.
Yeah, it's actually funny because like I was gonna bring up loose skin as my that is the question that I get. It impacts me more than any other question, honestly, because for some a lot of for some people, the fear of loose skin will like stop them from wanting to even pursue the weight loss, which, you know, it's easy to brush it off and be like, no, 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 like even if you do get the loose skin, lose the weight. But we live in a very visual world, you know, and how you look, how you appear affects how you feel, which is the same reason why they'll tell you to dress for the part that you want or dress for the job you want, not the job you have. Because when you dress for the job you want, the position you want, you start to feel like you're in that position already. There's a mental connection that you make, and that mental connection helps your mind to facilitate the reality that you're creating up here in your mind, because everything starts in the mind, right? I've talked about this before with the iPhone. You look at Steve Jobs had an idea in his head before it ever existed in most of our hands. I mean, iPhone, most people have iPhones, which is crazy. um and so we have that same power, and it's much easier to transform your body than to bring something like the iPhone out of, you know, thin air. So we really do have the ability to have any type of physique that we want, but we have to begin the process of envisioning it. And I think the loose skin causes people to think more about that than the body they want, and then they end up with loose skin. So one thing I will say, what you guys have to do when you're losing large amounts of weight, you have to envision your body the way you want it. You cannot focus energy on the issues that you think you're going to have or what you don't want. Okay? Because that's a big component of it.
That's good. Solve one problem at a time because there's always more problems after you solve one. I like that. But no, so that actually ties right into the first question that I was going to ask because, and I think Chris, you and I answered this on the last live stream we did. Um, what can you have during your fasting windows in terms of what can you actually drink? And it ties in perfectly, Stephen, because you were talking about autophagy, right? And so in the past, we talk like, yes, you can have coffee. Sometimes you can use MCT oil or heavy cream if your main goal is just weight loss. But if your main goal is autophagy, that's where things get a little more, let's say, hazy or gray. Like the research isn't 100%. So I think we would all probably agree, like if you're going for autophagy, you're probably best just sticking with water just to play it safe. If you just want weight loss, like I've done plenty, like when I lost all my weight, my fasting I did with coffee, black coffee, sometimes green tea. Every once in a while I would use electrolytes, but it's funny. I hit you up last week, Chris, you remember I asked you about like salt loading. So I was doing a 3-day fast after having all these conversations with you and then with Pastor Shane Idleman. I started thinking about all the fasting that I've done. It's like, man, have I ever done a perfect water fast? And I was racking my brain and I don't think I had. And so I was like, all right, I'm gonna do a 3-day fast and I'm literally gonna do nothing but water. And y'all, like it was the easiest 3-day fast I've ever done. Like it blew my mind. The first 24 hours, like from hour 23 to 24 was a little rough, but that's because I wasn't eating the best the week before. But those 2 days after, like after hour 24, I finally experienced what all these fasting gurus talk about. They're like, oh, I had so much energy and I didn't think about eating. Dude, that's what I experienced. And I was like, finally, like this is what everybody's talking about. So water only. I did do a teaspoon of salt when I was feeling a little down at the 23-hour mark, but other than that, it was just plain water.
Yeah, and I've actually so I think when you asked me that, I think I mentioned, a very specific type of salt. So,
Mhm.
you know, I'm not really big into like a whole bunch of additions to the fasting water and stuff like that. So I don't know what narrative is really being pushed out there. Salt is the like primary thing, as if we can't get so because it's not salt, it's the sodium. That's what everybody's looking for in the salt. And it's not like you can't get sodium from other things, but if you're going to use salt, I do recommend Celtic sea salt, because it is a complete salt. Whereas with like pink Himalayan and some of the other salts, they're not a complete salt. They don't have the magnesium, right? And the magnesium draws in the water. So like when we talk about like salt drawing in water, um, you need that magnesium. So, and also, by the way, you're just talking about a grain of salt. You don't have to take a ton of salt when you do this. You literally are going to take a grain of your Celtic sea salt, put it on your tongue, let it fully absorb, and then you drink your water, and that's it. So I think, we could get into trouble with salt, especially if we're not hydrating well. That could be a big issue because then it will dry you out. Believe it or not, like you're gonna flush. That's why people do detoxes through salt water flushes because it's gonna flush your system. But I did want to give Rosalie to jump in, give her a chance to jump in and see, what was your experience either with loose skin personally or with people that maybe you have talked to, as far as like loose skin, and then as far as like pure water fasting, where are you at with that? Like, how do you like to approach the fasting?
Right. Yeah. So I didn't have the problem with the loose skin, and maybe because I didn't have a ton to lose to start with. I mean, 25, 30 pounds. I think you see that primarily in people who have considerably more to lose. But I have clients who've had that issue. And one of the things that you mentioned is just the way that we envision the weight loss. So I tell people most of what we grapple with is on a subconscious level. And so if we can train ourselves to think positive and think with the end in mind, the end goal in mind, and envision your body without that extra skin and all the stuff that you go through to get to your end goal. So much of it is mental versus physical, and your body will follow your mind. So if you can think the positive thoughts and envision yourself the way you want to be, oftentimes that will pull through to what you're experiencing physically. So I tell people that exercise is important, staying active is important, but nothing is more important than fasting. And the water fasting is still the primary thing to do. I know that I've done the juice feast and I've done other fasting and encouraged people to do variety and mix it up so they don't get bored or discouraged. But nothing helps with weight loss or with the hydration for the skin more than water fasting. So that's always a top recommendation, is to envision yourself the way that you want to be, think positively about that, have those conversations with yourself on a subconscious level. And every night before I went to bed, I'd talk to myself before I closed my eyes, and I'd send myself the messages I needed to receive in order to have the best possible outcome. So I would encourage people to, think about, we become the things that we think about. So if you think about yourself being slim and not having loose skin, more than likely you can pull that energy in.
There you go. I love it. Justin, I'm gonna toss it back over.
Yeah, I just want to say I love that, Rosalie. They're talking about identity, right? We're like we all
Mhm.
want to change our behaviors, but behaviors change first by changing your thinking, right?
That's
Your
right.
thinking changed by your identity. I love that. All right, Rosalie, I got one for you. All
Okay.
right, so another question that I get quite often is how long should I fast? And obviously the answer varies, but I want to kick this to you, Rosalie, because I did listen to your interview and I haven't met many other people who you regularly do alternate day fasting, correct? And
Yes.
and you coach a lot of people as well. So if somebody came to you and like, okay, how long should I fast? How would you answer that one?
Right. Well, I don't think you should ever stop fasting. So I think that, I certainly get the spirit of the question, but I think for the most part, it's a lifestyle. So I tell people you diet on a temporary basis until you meet your goal, but you fast forever, so you never have to diet again.
Mm,
So for me, fasting is a lifestyle change. And if you fast and you mix it up, ADF is just really good for me. I really enjoy that because it gives me variety and something to look forward to. And I'm a check the box type person. So I know if I'm fasting, alternate day fasting Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, then I'm excited about Tuesday, Thursday, and
yeah,
Saturday and Sunday. I typically do intermittent fasting.
yeah,
But at the end of the day, fasting never ends. And when you think back to the way our society and our people and the way that we were 100, 200, 500, 2,000 years ago, fasting was a way of life. So we have to get back to where we used to be. And so I think at the end of the day, if you think of fasting as a thing or an event, that's where failure can creep in. Fasting has to become who you are. You're not fasting, fasting is actually you. And so what you do is that you moderate your eating, you moderate the amount of consumption, you moderate things that encourage healthy fasting, but you never stop. So for me, I mix it up. So 1 month I might do ADF for 2 weeks, and then for the next 2 weeks I'll do intermittent fasting. And then I might switch to do that a rolling 72. And then after that, I might do a 48-hour fast. So for me, it's about keeping it exciting and kind of making a personal game out of it. And I keep myself motivated by watching Chris's videos, and I've watched your videos, and Stephen changed my life with his weight loss. And, I sent so many people that video. So at the end of the day, I think it's a matter of finding what works for you and never thinking of fasting as an event or something that you're going to do for a measured amount of time. It has to become who you are because it's the healthiest thing for your body.
yeah. Yeah, that's good. And we're all advocates of testing different things out, right? Especially if you're brand new to fasting, like that's
Mhm.
the fun time. Like you get to test everything out. It's like brand new, every different, schedule you can think of. But I'm
Right.
curious too, now that you have gotten down to your goal weight, how do you kind of like, what do you use as your markers to determine, okay, next week I'm going to do alternate day fasting. And then the week after that, I'm going to do a 72-hour fast. Like, are there things that you like, are there benchmarks that you look at and you're like, okay, that's why I'm going to do this? Or you just like, I'll do a 72-hour fast next week because it'll make me feel good.
Right. I think it's probably a mixture of those two things. I might jump on. And for example, Chris is starting the rolling 72 fast. So that may spur me or encourage me to do something different. But for the most part, it's really my husband and I do it together. He had more weight loss to lose or more weight to lose than I did, but we do it together and we continue to do that. So we literally put our heads together on the weekend and go, what do we want to do this week? And it helps when you have a partner. I certainly encourage people who don't have a partner to make sure that they're watching videos and getting inspiration from that. But if he fails, he owes me a little bit of money. If I fail, I owe him a little bit of money.
I
So
love
that
it.
always helps. Yeah, that certainly helps. And he's had to pay me a few times, so
Nice.
that helps. But at the end of the day, it's really kind of what I feel like doing. I'll watch a video that might inspire me, and I'll hop on and do a rolling 72 or alternate day is probably what I would say is my go-to. That's probably what I do more than anything else because then you just kind of get into a routine of that. And it's something I enjoy. I like looking forward to that Tuesday, Thursday, and the weekend. But for the most part, I think for people who are brand new to fasting, I think the thing to do is to jump on, like he has a rolling 72, jump on with enough people that you have the encouragement and the support, and try not to do it on your own to start because it is a change and it isn't necessarily the easiest thing to start, but having that encouragement from people who are like-minded really makes a big difference.
Yeah. And Chris, with your rolling 72 challenge too, just because you know my background, like I had no protocol when I lost the weight. I would just fast for as long as I could until I broke down and I ate, and then I would fast again. It was terrible. Don't do that. But the rolling 72 challenge that you guys are doing, like if somebody's thinking about giving that a shot, like what type of results can they expect from that if they've never done that before?
So to kind of piggyback off of Rosalie, what she was saying, for the results are, if you guys are looking to lose in an R72, you're probably going to be looking to lose anywhere from 25 to 32, 35 pounds.
Nice.
So that's like the range. Okay. A lot of people think, because we do a prep. So a lot of people think they're wasting time on the prep. They don't want to do the prep. And you actually lose weight on the prep too. We typically see anywhere from 5 to 12 pounds prep week. So it's not like prep week is a waste of time, but holistically, you're going to lose around 30 pounds. And it depends on how much you have to lose. You know, with Rosalie, she only had 25 pounds to lose. So you're not going to probably lose 30, right? If you've only got 20 pounds. And people ask me that, like, Chris, can I join if I only got 20 pounds to lose? Yeah. Do you want to lose the 20? You know? Also, the thing you guys got to remember is your body is so intelligent. So we have an idea of what is too much weight, what is too little weight. That might be different for what is natural. And so when you fast, the body's going to find its natural balance. Yes, you are going to lose more weight when you're fasting than if you're eating and maintaining weight. But there is this thing, I call it the fasting springback. So let's say that your goal is to lose 30 pounds. Well, you really want to lose 35 to 40 pounds because you're going to gain anywhere from 5 to 10 pounds back as your body starts adjusting, settling into your eating habits and things of that nature. So it's okay to lose more. Like, I trust me when I tell you all, I have pushed this to the extreme that probably nobody's going to push it as extreme as I have. And I did it because so that I could confidently tell you it's okay if you lose a few extra pounds.
Yeah.
I was severely underweight. Like, I think for my height, I'm 6'6". I think my the low end is I want to say it's like maybe 175, 180, something like that. Like that's the low end of before you hit underweight. I got down to 145, Justin. I think I might have told you this.
Yeah.
Um,
Which is what I weigh, which is insane because I'm a foot shorter than you.
right. Yeah. So I got down to 145 at 6'6", and I was moving around. I was functioning. It wasn't too short after I did that. We did our first event in Dallas, so don't worry about losing a little weight. And then the benefit of me actually going through that process and learning that is I learned how to keep the weight off as well. So I could not gain that weight back. Like I got down to 145 and I probably gained like maybe 15 pounds pretty quickly, 15, 20 pounds pretty quickly came back. But then I was stuck. I was stuck right there at like 170, So, um, yeah, I think I'll say this too to kind of get a little bit more detailed. With the challenge, it's important to understand that it's a place for you to learn more nuanced information. Like most people who watch the YouTube channel, you're going to get like general information and you're going to hear about what we teach in the challenge, but you're not going to get it in such a concise format where it's like A, B, C, D, You might get A today, and then a week later you'll get D, and then you go back, look at some old content, and you see B, and it's all over the place. You're going to get A, B, C, D in a concise format, and there is something to say about the synergy of the secret group that we have available for you guys to join as well. Like it's unmatched. So like having a partner, somebody, a husband, a spouse, or a friend to fast with, it means everything. But now you have an entire group, literally hundreds of people. We usually host anywhere from 400 to 600 people in our challenges. So you can find a buddy in your area. Like you can start building your own community. It's amazing.
Yeah, and I want to say too, I had the same experience with the like fasting just reset my body weight. It was crazy. When I was at 185, I thought that I wanted to get down to 125 because that's what I was in college. And I fasted and fasted and I fasted for almost 9 days at one time. towards the end of it, and the lowest I could get was about 134, 135. And I just wouldn't lose any more weight after that. And where my body finally settled at was like 142, 145. And y'all, like, I just tinkered with fasting for like a year to a year and a half. And now I'm not lying, like, now it's really hard for me to gain weight because my body's just kind of reset at this new weight. Like, I'm currently trying to build muscle and I have to intentionally eat like an insane number of calories every day because my body just doesn't hold on to it because it's just used to this new set weight. So if you're looking for a way to not have to worry about your weight in the future, in my experience, fasting was the answer to that because that was what I was wanting. Um, I apologize because on StreamYard I can like star the questions and stuff, and I'm like scrolling the comments. So if you guys have questions, do drop those in the chat here, and I will do my best to make sure we see them. Jeremiah asked a question at the start here, so I want to go back to this. He asked, "Is it safe to do a liver flush with one kidney? And what is the safe amount with drinking water? Is a gallon too much for one kidney?"
Steven,
Uh,
that's
Very good question. Very nuanced question as well. So in regards to a liver flush, I am going to assume you're talking about the liver and gallbladder flush that AHA teaches. And in that sense, the answer would be yes, for two reasons. Number one, it's not flushing the kidneys, even though it would be fantastic, but it's not actually flushing the kidneys. So you're not putting any kind of undue or a lot of extra stress on the kidneys in general during that process. So that's kind of the first thing. Second thing is that we have to understand, of course, what do kidneys do, right? They're helping to, of course, clean the blood. They're helping to. There was another question about dry fasting that I don't want to kind of go into that with this question, but they are an assistance in cleaning the body. The liver is the primary detox organ in the body. So it does all the major heavy lifting, particularly with detoxification of blood as well. So by you assisting by cleaning the liver and the gallbladder, that actually assists and it can take pressure off of the kidneys. So it actually is a good thing if you actually do the flush. In regards to the amount of water, if you have a fully functioning healthy kidney, and let's say you had a transplant or something like that, and you have one fully functioning healthy kidney, a gallon of water, I'm not going to say is going to be too much. What I would say is that you just want to make sure that you just don't drink a lot of it at one time. I think that in general, as long as you're getting somewhere between that 96, I would say 96 ounces, which is about 3/4 of a gallon. I think that that would be a good number for you. I would not go crazy, just simply because you, of course, do need those kidneys in order for you to process that water. And I've worked with people that have been in like issues with kidney or they've been in kidney failure, and obviously you can't have them drink a lot of water because of that. So if you are holding or if you're holding a lot of water, or you dealing with a lot of inflammation or bloating, I definitely would decrease the water as well as decrease your sodium intake as well. So just something to keep note of. But cleaning the liver and the gallbladder, that actually can help the kidneys, holistically speaking.
Well, thanks for that. Now the dry fasting question from Ashley. When dry fasting, will we have loose skin since we aren't hydrating?
So that's and this, just for in the interest of time, it's a whole conversation in regards to dry fasting. But you have three different types of fasting. You have dry fasting, water fasting, juice fasting. Each of them does something very specific really well that one of them does better than the other. Okay. So if I were dealing with loose skin, dry fasting will take you deeper into autophagy faster. So we talked about autophagy in the beginning. So, sorry.
Got
So
dark.
dry fasting will take you deeper into autophagy much faster. It takes about 3 days for you to get into autophagy, like real deep autophagy with water fasting. Dry fasting starts to do that less than 24 hours. Okay. Now, in regards to will you have loose skin because you're not hydrating? I said that's a great question because I spoke about dehydration. Well, the thing about dry fasting and why dry fasting is so powerful, and just so that some of you know, dry fasting is no food, no water, no nothing. You don't eat or drink anything for a designated amount of time. Now, my experience with dry fasting, I have completed successfully a 10-day dry fast. So this is not coming from just talk. This is actual facts. Like I have done this. I have helped others dry fast, and I have one of my students who actually did a 10-day dry fast as well. Okay. Now, what happens is that you have a system in the body that, once again, is really regulated by the kidneys, but it's a hormone, but it's called the vasopressive system. And the vasopressive system kicks on during a period of dry fasting. What this system does is it recirculates hydration through the body, right? So it is an antidiuretic hormone. So what it does is that it recirculates after it goes to the kidneys, and it typically will go get flushed out and you would pee it out. That hydration then gets recirculated as complete hydration. Now, this hydration is different than water. This hydration is literally hydration that the body is already processed, and it is 100% usable to the body, right? So regular water that we drink is not ready to use. It has to be processed by the body before the body can use it. The water that is being recycled through the vasopressive system is already ready to use. So you actually find yourself to be extremely hydrated on a cellular level. And because of the intense detox or the intense autophagy, it breaks down fat more effectively and faster because it requires more hydration. So the hydration that you are getting is coming from the fat cells. So your fat cells store hydration, nutrition, and also toxins. So the body is more rapidly breaking down fat cells so it can get the hydration, and then it can process it out faster, and then it just simply continues to get recycled. So, and of course, you will use the bathroom while you're dry fasting, but obviously much less. But you will continue to use the bathroom while dry fasting because it's breaking down fat so effectively. So, to sum that all up, you are hydrated on a much deeper level cellularly. Your mouth may be dry, you may be thirsty, but that doesn't mean that you're dehydrated because you're getting hydrated on a cellular level by the water that is already ready to use inside of the body. So that's probably the easiest, simplest way I can break that down, but I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes total sense. If you like watch my face while like you or your brother are talking, I'm always just like nerding out and geeking out because you guys teach me so much stuff. I can't believe you did a 10-day dry fast. That's crazy.
It was
Like,
intense.
did you get headaches?
In the beginning,
Okay.
for sure. But you know, I didn't start. I didn't just say, "Oh, I'm gonna just do a 10-day dry fast."
Yeah,
Basically
right.
coming off the street, right? This is after going through water fasting and then doing a little juice fasting. Like my body was primed for this dry fast, so it was ready. And it didn't really start to get tough until about day 5, and then it started to get a little bit tough, particularly at nighttime. Right, you have a lot of energy because you have that fasting insomnia. The body requires less energy, so you're laying in bed and you're like, I want to sleep. If you ever fasted, y'all know what I'm talking about. You're like, I just want to sleep. But dry fasting does everything more effectively. I don't always talk about it, or we don't always recommend it because it's very difficult. And as Chris always says, the best fast that you can do is the one you can complete. And if you can't complete a dry fast, it's not the type of fast you want to do.
Right. Yeah. When you mentioned too the insomnia, another one of the questions that I have written down that I get all the time. Actually, there's two of them that go hand in hand. One, does fasting decrease my metabolism? And two, does fasting waste a lot of muscle tissue, right? Will you break down a lot of muscle tissue? And the insomnia triggered that question because one of the, correct me if I'm wrong, one of the reasons why it's difficult to sleep when you get into a prolonged fast is because your adrenaline ramps up and your human growth hormone ramps up, which actually protects your metabolism, protects your muscle mass while you're fasting versus your standard kind of dieting or calorie deficit, which does cause a decrease in metabolism.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. That's very good point there. It also kind of segues into we can kind of touch on another question. There was another question about someone asked about their adrenals, right? Am I putting too much stress on my adrenals? And the answer is no, right? Now, what you are feeling as you are going through this process, and a lot of times you'll feel like a nervous energy. And this happens in a day-to-day, even on days that you're eating, right? Your adrenals will release a very specific blend of adrenaline that actually suppresses hunger and that gives you energy that allows you to kind of get through your day. Okay. So if you're not eating, you can then start to feel jittery. And sometimes people think it's blood sugar changes, right? And unless you have blood sugar issues, it's probably not blood sugar. You're probably feeling that dump of adrenaline going into the body because you haven't given it any energy. So it doesn't necessarily, the body doesn't necessarily go straight for fat. There's steps and stages that it goes through. So if you go through your first day of fasting, you may experience that drop of adrenaline and you can feel this level of nervousness. At the same time, at nighttime, if you are typically in that state where you normally eat at nighttime, you can get that surge of adrenaline at nighttime because your body is saying, well, we need energy for this time of day. So, but to answer that question about the adrenals, it does not put that extra stress on the adrenals because the adrenals are only really doing any of that extra work in the beginning, because after about that first day of fasting, your body is really ramping up autophagy. Once again, that's why we go back to autophagy, and that's why I explained it. It's breaking down fat, and it's using more fat than anything else for that energy. So, and fat is a very effective form of storage and energy. So the body does not break down muscle mass, right? And just real quick to touch on that, because it's a really big thing, because people think, oh, my muscle's wasting away, right? We have to understand what muscle is. Most of muscle is water. It is it's filled with carbohydrates, right? Now, what you may experience if you go to the gym, because I'm in the gym pretty heavily these days, right? But what you may experience a decrease in muscle size, but you will not see a decrease in muscle strength or your actual strength, right? Because we have to understand that a lot of times when we're talking about muscle, if the body is indiscriminate when it comes to autophagy, it will break down old damaged cells, old damaged proteins. If you are building muscle and you're being built on low quality amino acid chains, or what you call proteins, right? Protein breaks down into these amino acid chains. If they're weak, the body will break them down, right? And that is the actual size of the muscle. The body also decreases inflammation in the body, and you have muscles which are literally being torn apart. When you tear something and then it has to rebuild it, there's inflammation that has to be created. So the body is going to pull and remove inflammation out of the muscle, which does what? It decreases the size of the muscle, but you do not lose strength. So this is why you can even get a DEXA scan, or you can get on a body fat scale and it says, well, you lost muscle. You didn't lose muscle. You lost muscle size, or there may be damaged tissue that the body said we don't need. But there's also nutrition in the muscle the body utilizes as well. There's minerals in the muscles. There's vitamins in the muscles, and it utilizes all that. But you're not losing strength, and that's the true nature of that muscle. And you'll see this, because as Chris said, you'll start putting on weight very quickly, because the body just refills all those stores. It refills the things that it says, well, we need these for later. It'll refill them. So, but you're not losing muscle. You can tell if you don't work out, you may not know this, but you will notice that you don't lose strength, but you will lose size, and that's not a bad thing.
Yeah, like I said, I just got done with that 72-hour fast water only last week, right? I was lifting for 30 days before that, took 3 days off. I did walking. I was going to go to the gym, but I got a sinus infection, so I didn't want to put that extra stress on me. But I went back into the gym the day after refeeding, and I was lifting heavier weights than before, right? Like, so I did not lose any strength whatsoever. I lost 8 pounds in those 3 days. I gained 4.5 of them back because, like you're saying, Stephen, a lot of that's just water weight, right? Like
Yeah.
I emptied all my glycogen, so now I'm flushing all the water out of my muscle, out of my liver, and I put the carbs and the water back in, and that's just water weight.
Correct.
So,
Absolutely.
so you actually, what that process did was it made your muscles more efficient. See, one of the things that we don't talk about a lot because it's not as aesthetically pleasing is you really want supple muscles. Like we really think about Arnold Schwarzenegger and these huge dudes, but you could take a post-it note, stick it on the middle of their back, and they can't get it off, right? Because
Yeah.
they have these huge bulky muscles that have lost their flexibility. They're not limber. This is why they're so prone to disease and injury and things of that nature. They don't age very well. Like what we see from more traditional exercise, like these competitions, Mr. Olympia and all these guys, like this is a synthetic version of the human muscle. This is not, it's not what you really want. And of course it's attractive because we've just made it that way. What
Right.
you really want is what we used to call farmer muscles, where you have these really slim guys or girls who are just really strong, right? They can do the splits, they can touch the middle of their back, they can do all those things, but they're also very strong. Actually, Coach Mel, for those of you guys who are familiar with Coach Mel, he's built like that. And so fasting helps you develop a more efficient muscle. And then, of course, you get the access, like Stephen mentioned, the minerals and things. There's also hormones in your muscles. I just did a piece of content, I don't think I've released it yet, talking about how one of the greatest tools against modern depression is exercise. Like it's very difficult to be depressed and you're regularly exercising. They call it the miracle hormone or whatever the case is, because it's this new hormone they found that muscles release when you exercise, and it severely combats depression. So if you combine regular exercise with proper dietary strategy and fasting, you can absolutely obliterate depression, which is essentially what I did without knowing all this knowledge, like back 10 years ago, whenever it was. So there's a lot of benefit. And I'll say too, with the dry fasting steals inflammation. So Stephen mentioned the muscles kind of, they look smaller, right? You're losing muscle mass, but you're not losing strength, because like especially when you dry fast, it's going to snatch the inflammation out, but that's not a bad thing. Dry fasting is an inflammation buster. So if you deal with severe inflammation, lower back, hands, right, whatever, wherever, maybe a joint, some bone you broke years ago and it's never properly healed, you can use dry fasting as a tool to kind of correct that stuff.
Right. And Chris, I just wanted to mention that I think we've come so far from where we should be in terms of just what we do with our bodies. We forget how smart our bodies are. We forget that if we do what we're supposed to do, whether it's exercise, and we're not out in the fields as much anymore. We're not walking, we're in, commuting back and forth in vehicles, and everything is different than it was 100, 200, all those years ago, when people didn't have to worry about this because food was more scarce. There weren't fast food places on every corner. So we weren't constantly grazing and eating and harming our bodies by putting things in it that don't belong in it, and eating way more and way often, from portion control to the amount of times that we eat per day. So we're unfamiliar with what it feels like to have a smart body. So to Stephen's point earlier, at the end of the day, whether or not it's autophagy, whether or not it's the body reacting to stress because of the fact that it's fasting and it's unfamiliar with that, these things will self-regulate once we become accustomed to what our bodies should feel like and experience. We're just so far out of left field because we just don't live right. We
Yeah.
don't eat right. We don't sleep right. We don't do the things that we're supposed to do for our bodies. So this is a foreign concept to our bodies. And when we think of all the toxins and all the poisons and the dyes and the chemicals and all the things that are in our body that has to be rid when we go through the fasting process, it's no wonder that we have the problems and the issues that we have and the way that we feel bad when we're fasting, because we're not accustomed to having a day without food. I mean, most people will tell me when I tell them to fast, they're like, I couldn't do that if my life depended on it.
Yeah.
So they just think they're going to die. I
Yeah.
mean, they think they're going to literally die if they go a day without food. So it's retraining our thinking about how smart our bodies truly are.
Yeah. That's why I like hanging out with y'all, because like any other day, like around, the average person, we're the weirdos because we don't eat all the time. But that's also like ninja hack here. That's usually how I know it's the right thing to do. If it's not what everybody else is doing, it's probably the right thing to do.
That's right.
Rosalie, I got a question for you here because you were talking about some mindset stuff earlier in this chat, and there's several people here saying they've joined some challenges before and can't get started. They self-sabotage and don't know why. Any advice?
Yeah. So, and I think that's really pretty common. I think when you stop and think of how our culture is in terms of dieting, exercising, overeating, I think that's pretty common. So I think that it all comes down to our thoughts. It really truly does. I think when you're in a self-sabotaging mode, you have to get to the bottom of why you're doing what you're doing to yourself. You have to ask yourself some hard questions, and you have to get to a point where, for me, it's always at nighttime. I meditate every single night. So I think if you meditate, what happens is that you get in control of your subconscious mind, which dictates 95% of what we do. Your body doesn't have to think to swallow or to breathe or for your heart to beat. Those are all subconscious things that happen. Well, we have to get to a point where we feed to our subconscious mind the things that we think on our conscious mind. So if you're sabotaging yourself about not starting, not being able to start, then when you meditate at night, and definitely meditate, there's tons of YouTube videos that will help. Say to yourself before you go to sleep every night, I am able to fast successfully. I am able to do this. And you feed into your subconscious mind what you want it to do. It may not happen right away. It becomes a mantra, something that you repeat day in, day out, 5, 6, 7 times a day until you start to believe it. When you believe it on the conscious mind, you will feed that to the subconscious mind, and it will always do what you instruct it to do. But if you're sabotaging yourself, you're sending a negative message to your subconscious mind to continue to do what it's always done, and you'll always get what you've always gotten. So you have to actually be something before you see something.
Yeah.
So you have to say to yourself, I can do this. It's the whole just do it thing. I can do this. Tell yourself something. Find 5 or 6 or 7 mantras that you can repeat throughout the day, throughout the week. And even if you have to fake it till you make it and it sounds like a lie, faith comes by believing and by hearing. And it doesn't matter what you hear, it just comes by hearing. So if you say it out loud to yourself long enough, you will internalize it. Your subconscious mind will act on it, and you will fast and fast successfully.
Yeah, I'm getting fired up now. Like,
Yeah.
that stuff, that's so good, Rosalie. I was reaching for this. This is my journal, right? Because like 5 years ago, like I came out of drug addiction, right? So I've got a lot of weird thoughts, subconscious thoughts, identity things going on. And something that's been huge for me is every morning when I'm like just still waking up, I will write down whatever's on my mind, because that's like the closest I can get to my subconscious thoughts.
That's
And the
right.
things that I write in there sometimes are so bizarre, but you
Mhm.
better believe that even though I'm not consciously aware of these thoughts during the day, my subconscious is saying these things to me. And so this is my way of making them conscious to me, because it's only
Right.
once I bring them to my consciousness that I can start to challenge them and reframe them. And like Rosalie is saying, like rewrite your story, like
Mhm.
rewrite your story. That's huge.
Can I?
And that's so important, Justin. So important. And I'll just say this and land my plane. But at the end of the day, it's so important that we tell ourselves what we need to act on. Your body is waiting for you to tell it the truth. And all the things that you're thinking in your conscious mind are not the truth. They're tapes, they're playbacks, they're whether it's drug addiction or domestic violence, or the fact that you're fat and you feel ugly, or the fact that someone's called you ugly, or what your parents did to you when you were a kid. All those things are on your conscious thoughts, but they seep into your subconscious and they drive your behavior. So
Yeah.
in order to correct your behavior, you have to tell yourself something different.
We got to learn that the human body is so powerful, but it is a vehicle, it is a computer, it is a tool, it is here for our use, right? So, okay, like just think about like the Teslas and like the modern electric cars and everything. They are incredible machines, right? I mean, I mean, the Teslas literally can drive for you, right? So, these are incredible vehicles, but they're here to serve you. You still gotta, where do you want to go?
Yeah.
Like the Tesla, it'll take you, but you still gotta at least tell it where you want to go. Right. So what we're talking about when we're talking about programming the subconscious mind, it's like it's GPS. It's like, okay, subconscious mind, I want to go to a better body. I want to go to a better financial place. I want to go to a better family life. You can choose whatever your destination is. You just gotta understand the vehicle, understand how it works, right? Like if you try to plug in the map coordinates on your Tesla, but you're in the Apple Play Store on Spotify, or if you're in the wrong app, it's not going to work, right? It's going to say product not found or the destination not found or whatever. So what we're doing today is we're teaching you guys not only where to program it, but how to program it. And there's a lot of people that are going to hear this video and they're going to be like, here they go again with this, woo woo, mumbo jumbo, this positive self talk thing. Have you guys ever noticed that no matter who you're speaking to, no matter what profession, if they are high level, if they are the ones teaching, they always talk about mindset, they always talk about the subconscious. And the crazy thing about it is, you guys are being manipulated through your subconscious every day anyway. Like,
Every day.
it doesn't matter if you are programming your subconscious or it's the government or if it's McDonald's or if it's BET or if it's Nike. Someone's going to program your subconscious. Wouldn't you rather it be you? Because all of these huge institutions, they study what we're teaching you all tonight. They spend millions of dollars studying this because they understand the power of it. And also what they've done is they have taught you not to understand the power of it because that maintains control. Because guess what? I know how to manipulate my subconscious. So that means I can also tell when someone's trying to manipulate my subconscious. And they started when we were very young in school. Remember, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. That was like, it's basically a nursery rhyme, right? Like we all heard it, we all said it, and at some point we started to believe it. It's not true. But that particular saying was embedded in the very early years of our childhood so that we start to believe the lie, because if we understood the power of words, we'd be using them today. It wouldn't sound weird for Rosalie to say, of course, like before you go to sleep, program your subconscious mind with an affirmation. You know what I'm saying? But we were taught, no, sticks and stones, right? If someone punches you, that hurts. But words, ignore words. And the crazy thing about it is, even though we say that and we think we believe it, we still don't. Because even if anybody who has been on social media and has been vulnerable on social media, and Justin, I know you can attest to this.
Oh yeah,
You go in
every
the
day.
comment section, you go into the comment section of that video where you've kind of laid your heart out there or been vulnerable, and someone says something negative, but 100 people say something positive. You remember the negative.
Yep, the one
It
out of
impacts,
100.
right?
Yeah.
So we have to understand the power of reprogramming our subconscious mind, understanding how to programming it, understanding what destination to input. And then when you repeat this process every day, you just start driving. Now, understand that this is not a perfect process because you have to unlearn and you have to change habits that you've had for 20 years, 40 years, 60 years, whatever the case may be. So you're going to that there's gonna be an obstacle in the road. You're gonna have to rerouting, da 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 da. Like that's going to happen. That's normal. Appreciate the fact that you even are there to understand, oh, rerouting. Like, cause right now you're just letting someone else guide you. You don't even know you're being guided somewhere, right? So just that awareness alone is you moving forward in your wellness journey, having more control, and now, of course, you can get to where you want to go faster.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Chris, and I'll say this. I try to work with my clients to tell them, let's start with the end in mind. Always start with the end in mind. So if your target is, let's say, 125 pounds, I give them the analogy. If you were leaving your house today and you had a dream vacation of going to New York, and you live in Dallas, let's say, where I am, and you have your map or your GPS to get to New York. Well, there are lots of routes that will take you there, but typically a primary road that will take you, in this case, fasting. At the end of the day, if you run into roadblocks, if you get in a traffic jam, if you have to take a detour, if a bridge has gone down, at the end of the day, if New York is your journey and that's where your destination is and that's where your dream vacation is, you're not going to let one of those roadblocks stop you. You're going to find an alternate route. You're going to find a way around it. You're going to find a detour. If you have to stop and sleep in the car overnight and get back on the next day, nothing is going to stop you from getting to New York. Your bags are packed, the trunk is full, you're going to New York. It's the same way we have to think about fasting. If your goal is 125 pounds, but you've got all this baggage from years of being told the wrong things or thinking or believing the wrong things, you have to treat this like this is the ultimate destination. This is your journey, and this is the path that you have to take to get there, and let nothing but nothing stop you.
Yeah. You never give up, you will get there.
That's right.
Yeah. All right, Chris and Steven, Donna asked, I'm pretty sure the answer is yes, and probably you should. Can you work out on the R72?
Steve, you want to do that?
So working out and fasting is one of those. I mean, I get this question so much. So here's the thing, right? And to kind of like, I guess, kind of piggyback off of Rosalie just said, right? If you are asking yourself, like, look at the end destination, or why are you trying to fast, right? Why are you doing an R72? What is the goal for the time? And a lot of times, so like when I get a new client, I ask them, what is your goal? What are you looking to reach? Because they want to start fasting, they want to start working out, they want to change their diet, they want to do all of this stuff. And I'm like, cool, we can get to all that. But before we even start any of that, what do you want to do? Right? And a lot of times it's usually weight loss, right? Here's how it typically goes. And this may sound familiar to most of us here. Well, I want to lose 75, 80 pounds, whatever that number is. Then after I lose that weight, then I want to tone up, tighten up my arms, my stomach, my butt, and I want to be toned. That's the route that I typically hear, right? If we look at fasting and we look at working out, fasting is a process to where it takes things away. It's stripping fat, it's stripping inflammation, it's stripping toxins, it's taking things away. Fitness or working out or lifting is a process of which it is now giving or it's now building, right? So you have two different processes that you are doing, essentially trying to do simultaneously, and they counteract each other. Not that they're bad doing them together, but when we look at the mentality of somebody and we look at their mental state, typically somebody who is going to be in a process or they're trying to lose weight, they're going to typically judge their progress off the scale. Can we use our clothes as a way to measure? Yes. Can we use a tape measure? Yes. But the vast majority of people are going to use the scale as a progress of measurement. If you are fasting, and let's say that you lost 5 pounds from fasting, but you're working out as well at the same time, and you are now building muscle, which now you start eating, like you're doing an R72, so you fast 3 days and you eat 1 day. If you're now fasting and you're now eating, the body has to rebuild that muscle, right? I talked about it. It has to take protein, it has to break it down into amino acids. anything that you eat after fasting, the body is going to use as much of it as it can, right? So if you are now eating and you have broken down muscles, the body's going to say, I need all of this in order for me to rebuild. So then what you're going to see is a net increase in weight. And you're going to be like, wait a minute. I'm working out and I'm fasting. Why am I not losing weight? A matter of fact, I gained weight this week, right? That's because you're doing two different things at the same time. You're doing two different processes. If you're not in a space where you need to lose 80, 90, 100 pounds, go for it with an R72, right? When we go into longer types of fasting, I don't suggest any heavy working out, right? Cardio, you can do walking, you can do Pilates, you can do yoga, you can do stretching, things of that nature, right? If you're doing intermittent fasting or alternate day fasting, you can work out because you're not getting into that deep level of autophagy and you're eating on a consistent basis, right? So those things are okay. We start doing 3 days and long-term fasting, we need to really pull back the workout, right? When you look at toning, because most people say, I want to tone my body, toning requires two different things. It requires fat loss and it requires muscle gain or muscle production. So they don't particularly work well together. You're better doing them separate. So work on focus on fasting, getting the weight, the fat off, right? Tighten up the loose skin. Because when people say, I want to tone, there are a lot of times they're talking about being jiggly, right? Loose skin, just fat. Do that first. Let that be the focus. And then, right, and this is exactly what I did. When you get down 100 pounds, 200 pounds, whatever your number is, now focus on muscle production so you can focus on it and you can actively go through that period where you're working on building muscle. And you can then do intermittent fasting or alternate day fasting while you do that. But to make it to bring it home, I suggest not doing working out while fasting, especially if you're not like a fasting pro. Like if you don't have any problem, just if you wake up one day and say, I'm fasting today, if you can do that and you've been fasting for a while, you can throw in some working out because you get that HGH or human growth hormone production, right? If you struggle with fasting in any way, the last thing you want to do is add an added stress of working out just because you're motivated. Save that motivation for the fasting, get rid of the fat, right? Focus on that for 3, 4, 5, 6 months first. I promise you, it will have you looking the way that you're wanting to look. And then you can go into working out and fitness at a later date. But don't let the industry fool you or the internet fool you and say, you got to change your diet and you got to do intermittent fasting. You got to start working out and you got to eat 0.25 or 0.8 grams of protein per body weight. And you don't got to do none of that.
Nope.
One thing at a time.
Yeah. No, I love that. Yeah. When I lost my weight, I only did walking for 6 months. I just fasted and walked to lose the fat. And then I picked up a weight. And I like how you explained it, Stephen, because yes, now, I mean, but we're talking like 9 years later. I will work out if I'm doing fasting, but I full well know that it typically makes the hunger a lot worse. But
Absolutely.
I know I'm making this harder for myself, but I like to challenge myself. But I would say like with rolling 72s, like if you're doing like some light cardio, definitely like walking saves me in longer fasts because anytime I get one of those hunger pains, like I go for a walk because by the time I'm done walking, it's gone. So it distracts me. But yeah, I didn't lift weights in the beginning because I was just trying to exercise that fasting muscle rather than my actual muscles. Okay, Emmeline asked, after the flush, what fast can you do next before starting a DF? This is for Chris.
A DF.
Yeah, DF.
What after the flush? What fast can you do before starting a dry fast?
Yeah, okay.
The liver goes.
Okay, liver, yeah.
Chris?
Yeah, so the way that I usually piece together the liver gallbladder flush with fasting is So there's a couple rules to understand about the liver gallbladder flush that we teach. This one's by Andreas Moritz. I would probably adopt this for any liver gallbladder flush because if it's a significant flush and it works well, you're going to be your body's going to be sensitive. So first, you don't want to do your flushes more than once every 2 weeks. That is the maximum. The recommended amount of time is once every 3 weeks. So typically what we do is we'll combine long-term fasting with the flushes. You can do that if you want to. So I'll tell people fast for during them 3 weeks. You could do a 14-day fast. You could do like a 5-2. We just finished doing our 5-2. You could do the R72. You really just have your pick of the litter of what type of fast. You could do water, you could do dry, you could do juice. What I'll say is coming off of a liver flush, if you're going to do dry fasting, you want to make sure to give yourself a barrier. Like there needs to be a period of time where you kind of recoup a little bit. Actually, I'll say, like, in general, we typically don't have people go from a liver flush straight into fasting. At the very least, we have at least a 24-hour period of time. So when we do our 21-day challenge, we will do the liver flush. We do like our prep, we do our liver flush, and then we do our fast. But there is a day in between that liver flush. You want to give yourself a minimum of that, especially if you're going to be doing like water or something or juice. If you're going to be doing dry, I would give myself 3 days minimum. Okay. It's important that we want to push ourselves, and that's fine. We don't want to overdo it. It's the same thing when we talked about like working out. Our bodies are incredible. Okay. We got Teslas. Cool. You know what I'm saying? Or whatever car you like. However, if you push that vehicle too hard, it's going to break down. Once again, our bodies are no different. This is why we see signs of aging coming so early. This is why we are seeing people dying in their 50s of heart disease and things of this nature. We can't push too hard. And even though you think, well, Chris, it's a healing modality, it's a therapy. Look, herbs are for the healing of the nations, but if you take herbs every single day, it can be detrimental. There are certain herbs that you have to cycle on and off of, right? There is nothing that is natural that's like a therapy or a substance that we're going to take and we're going to do it every day and there's just no consequence. So whether it's fasting or whatever else, there has to be balance. So I would do the liver flush. I give myself 3 days. You want to make sure that you hydrate really well because here's what you got to understand. Like when you do your liver flush, you are going to lose a tremendous amount of fluid. It's in the form of your bowel fluid. It's in the form of water. It's in the form of the body manufactures many different digestive fluids and things of that nature that you're going to lose when you do your flush. So you want to give your body time to recoup those resources so you can go into your dry fast strong. That's really it. You want to get the benefit from the dry fast. We know that we're not going to be eating or consuming any type of food or anything of that nature. So the body's going to be using what you already have, usually in a fat store or whatever, muscles, whatever the case may be. You want to give it a good push to get started. Did that answer the question? Because I'm not sure.
I think it did.
You answered the
Like I
question.
said, I'm sitting here like just absorbing all your guys' knowledge, man. This is like school for me. I love this. Jackie asked, will dry or water fasting repair damaged hip and knee joint bones?
I'm going to say that this is one of those things where you need a combination of tools. You know, fasting we talked about it earlier. It's great for increasing human growth hormone. So it's good for restoring damage holistically. However, if you don't have the nutrients available to support that restoration, we're going to be in trouble. So I like to use herbs. I like to use plants as much as possible. I would recommend fasting. Also get yourself a comfrey plant. Find comfrey, a live comfrey plant. And what you do is you take one of the leaves and you kind of you hit it with like a pestle or mortar. I don't know which one the
Mhm.
stick is.
Yeah.
Yeah, you hit it, right? Put it in like a Ziploc bag or something like that, and you just hit it. You could use your hand. I mean, you can use whatever you want, but you just want to break the leaf up a little bit, like kind of like make it mushy a little bit, and so it'll start releasing its juice, and you're basically making a poultice. And what you do is you take that and you wrap it around your hip. Now we have Castor packs. If you guys go to the AHA store, a healthyalternative.org, if you just go to the store, we have Castor packs, and you could actually take that leaf and you could wrap it on the hip or wherever you need, wherever it's close to the area as possible, and then you could kind of secure it with your Castor pack. That'd be a great tool that you could use, and you just I would sleep with it. You could do it twice a day, but I would sleep with it. That makes it very easy, and you could just do it while you sleep, or you could do it twice a day for about 4 hours each time, and just do that, and combine that with fasting. And then when you eat, you just want to make sure that you're eating raw. You make sure to incorporate raw food into your diet. Like you got to you got to eat raw food. When we cook food, we are not great alchemists nowadays. Okay, we don't understand combining food. We don't understand combining different minerals and stuff. We have lost all of our ancient wisdom, so we got to kind of go back to the basics. So I would just say at least one raw meal a day. If you're going to eat cooked food, keep it to a minimum. Eliminate the processed foods completely. So that's no processed foods, no refined sugars. And then I would also eliminate the dairy products. You can have meat if you want, but make sure that you increase the quality of the meat. This is all important. This is going to give you like the best results. This, because like, here's the problem that I found. I could tell you, do XYZ, and in 1 month you'll be healed, right? But most people aren't going to do XYZ perfectly. They're going to do XYZ and add an ABC, and then they're going to add a EFG, and you know what I mean? People are going to add extra steps, or they're going to take away steps. So if you eat well, you're going to eat raw, you're going to have at least one raw meal a day. You're going to eliminate processed food, refined sugar, dairy. You're going to increase the quality of your meat if you have it. You're going to utilize fasting, whether it's, alternate day fasting or three. I would recommend 3-day fasting. So the R72 would be great. And then you use the comfrey, get the comfrey and break it up and do that. If you do that at least once a day at nighttime, right? Then you're going to see results so fast. Because like what happens is if you don't see results, if you don't see benefit, you quit. So I know this, so I try to give you guys steps. It might sound like a lot of steps, but if you just do it consistently for a short period of time, you'll see results, and then those results will encourage you and motivate you to do more. But comfrey is incredible for joint pain. You tore your meniscus, you tore your rotator cuff, you broke a bone. Like they used to, the another term for it is knit bone. It helps heal bone rapidly. And I have other ways to do this that are less, people find it to be less tasteful. So I just stay away from talking about it. But this is an easy way. Find yourself a little comfrey leaf, a plant or whatever, and you use that, and you can permanently resolve that issue. And then of course you got to stay away from, you know, look, processed foods are eating away at our the fiber of our being, bro. Like
Yeah.
you guys have no idea how plastic and processed foods are just destroying your body. So we got to stay away from that stuff as much as possible.
Yeah, it's like
And
every day I see a new article coming out linking processed foods to something else. Like now
exactly.
it's depression was just like a couple months ago. Um, yeah, it's cancer now, like kids with colorectal cancer. Like it's
Mhm.
insane. Like kids that are like 3 to 5 years old are being diagnosed with cancer that typically happens in people that are like 65 or older.
Right.
It's nuts.
It's amazing that you would say that, Justin. Chris and I had that conversation during the interview, and I think one of the things that's the most startling for people who are overweight, and I have a client who was probably tipping the scale right about 300, and I told her, I said, one of the things, pardon me, that you're probably going to be the most shocked to hear is that the reason why you're as sick as you are is because you're starving to death.
Mhm.
And she said, what do you mean I'm starving to death? I'm almost 300 pounds.
Mhm.
And I said, starvation is not a measure of weight, it's a measure of nutrition.
Yeah.
You are starving to death. You're no different than the kids in Africa who don't have any food. If they're in Africa and you see the flies all over their face, they're starving because they don't have any food. You have food, but you have no fuel.
Yeah.
So you are literally starving to death. And that made sense to her. So she started at 300 pounds and she's lost 60 pounds already, fasting and understanding that she was literally starving. It shocked her into changing her behavior. She thought, if I'm starving to death at 300 pounds, I don't want people at my funeral looking at my casket saying a big fat woman who starved to death. And that's exactly what we're doing.
Yeah, that's powerful.
That is so true. And just people don't understand like micronutrients and how important they are, because everything that we talk about is macronutrients. Yeah. Like I'll say micronutrients and people are just like, what are those? Right? These are your vitamins, your minerals, right?
I think you mispronounced macronutrients, Stephen.
Right, exactly, right? But if I say macros, they know, oh, protein, right? They know fats and carbs, right? Like we understand, and there's a saying that the devil is in the details. It's the details that matter. It's not the big things, it's the little things. It's not 100 comments, right, on a video that are going to catch your attention. It's the one negative one. It's the micronutrients. And Rosalie, I love that, right? Because it is so true. So many people are overweight and they're dying because they are starving. And it's so crazy to think, well, I'm big, how am I starving? Because you don't have any nutrients. Your body is literally holding on to everything because it has nothing.
That's right.
Like you give somebody poor $1,000, most likely they're not going to share that. They're going to be like, I'm keeping all of this, right? Because they only have so little, so they're going to hold everything. But if you give somebody who's a millionaire $1,000, they're going to be like, what's this? I don't need this. And they'll spend it, they'll use it, right? So it's the same thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Tammy brought this up. I thought this was a good point. She said, why do people say it's just water weight? Isn't that part of weight loss? So yes, in all fairness, water loss is part of weight loss, but the brilliant part about fasting when it comes to weight loss is you will lose water weight, but then you'll, get it back when you start eating again and you start drinking more water, retaining more of that water. But when you're fasting, it kicks your body into ketosis. So really, like, what you should be thinking of, instead of thinking of weight loss, like what we really are talking about, what most people want is fat loss, right? So when you get into ketosis, you're going to be burning your stored body fat as its main source of fuel. So regardless of what your water retention is doing, what you're really interested in is fat loss. And this just popped into my head. Something that I did for the first 2 years after losing weight is I took my weight every single day and tracked it, not because I was obsessed with the scale, but because I could take those numbers and take a weekly average. And what you'll notice too, actually, this gave me a lot, like this helped me release my fear of the scale too, because I could notice that I would jump up like 2 or 3 pounds one day, and then like 2 days later, I'd be 3 pounds lighter, and it was all just water fluctuation. But when you take those daily numbers and take the average over week, compare week 1 to week 2, that's a more accurate depiction of how much body fat you're losing, and that's what you really want to do. If you're talking, I want to lose weight, you really mean you want to lose body fat. I hope I explained that properly.
Oh, you didn't see Steven's face?
No.
He was like, you got it.
Yeah.
It's interesting with this whole water weight thing. When my brother and I, John, when we very first started like showing people what we were doing, they would say, like, I remember this dude was like, yeah, but it's all water weight, right? And so like week after week or month after month, we're updating. Hey, lost this much. Hey, lost that much. So John went from, let's say, Steve, what was John, like 360, something like that?
Nah, like 275. You're thinking of my numbers.
Am I?
Yes.
No. John wasn't no 275 because he lost 100 pounds.
I mean, he definitely was never no 360.
He didn't make it to 300?
No, John, no, he wasn't that big.
Okay. Maybe, hey, listen, it's been a long time, man. It's been like 10 years. Anyway,
I think he started off at 275 and he got down to like 175. So I think
okay,
he lost 100,
okay,
something like that.
all right. Thanks for correcting me. But yeah, at one point, I'm like, okay, so when does it stop being water weight? Like
Yeah,
he's
100 pounds of water weight. Like, what's he drinking? 12 gallons of water an hour? Like,
right. Yeah, it's like, bro, who cares? You know, a lot of times we get stuck in um these, I don't know, echo chambers. I don't know. We're just repeating what other people have said. Like, listen, look at the results. Like, we are healthily losing 50 pounds, 40 pounds, 100 pounds, whatever the case is. Like, you get to see the people, you get to see, and then once we lost the weight, now it's like, okay, but he lost it, but he's gonna gain it all back. Then 3 months go by, 6 months go by, he's still losing more. A year goes by. He's the most fit and in shape that he's ever been. Like, at what point are we going to stop with all the nonsense? Like, oh, it's all water weight. Oh, you're just going to gain it all back. Is it possible that we've just simply figured out how to put the destination into the GPS? And the vehicle that is designed to get us from A to B is working and is doing its job. Like, could it be that we've been fed lies? Once again, I told y'all we've been programmed, regardless of if you're programming or if someone else is doing the programming. You've been programmed to think that there's certain things that are outside our reach. Why does everyone fear cancer? Because we've been programmed that cancer is something that happens to us, it's out of our control, and we don't have a good way to rectify it. Like, even now with the treatment that's available, even if you look at the statistics, you still have millions of people dying of cancer. So we know we're not doing it well. So it's scary and it feels out of our control. But one of the first things I figured out how to do was reverse cancer. And when I was younger, like Steve, I don't know if you remember, we used to kind of, it wasn't a joke, but we would jokingly say, we know they got the cure to cancer, they're just not giving it to us. Like, we're 13, 14 years old saying we knew at that age, we knew that there was an answer because it didn't make sense logically that there wouldn't be. Like, if you guys think about it, we have a machine that can collide atoms. Like, I don't, if y'all don't understand, like, we have a machine that can collide atoms, but we can't reverse cancer? Like, do you think that makes sense? Like, that doesn't make sense. Okay? They know how to reverse cancer. They know what causes cancer. And the reason why we don't have an adequate solution for cancer is because the answers are being suppressed
yeah, it's not
actively.
profitable. It's not
It's not
profitable.
profitable. And also, if we knew how to reverse cancer, like if we could avoid it altogether. But when you avoid cancer, you're not just avoiding cancer, you're avoiding like 80% of disease. So you're destroying an entire industry. And it's not just the money, it's the control too, because without think about how much control your medication has over your lifestyle. Like, if you want to go on a vacation and you've got diabetes or you've got XYZ, you got to, okay, well, what about you've got to worry about the cabin pressure in the airplane. You got to worry about your pills. You got to worry about whether or not you're going to what if you get bit and you have an allergic reaction and you got to have an EpiPen, and there are certain things you won't do in life because of your disease. It puts you in a box, and that's where they want us. It's important that we stay in our nice little neat boxes, because if you find out how supernatural you are, right, what you're actually capable of, it ruins everything. It ruins everything.
I love it. This is how you and I connected in the first place. We get so fired up. And I'm like looking at the comments here. I was like, I've got two more questions and then we should probably wrap it up. But I'm like, I could stay here till midnight doing this all night. I get so fired up with you guys. All right. What about bowels on a longer fast? So say a 21-day fast. How do you manage this? I've heard lots of conflicting advice.
Yeah, I'll touch on that. For the most part, in general, if you are on a long fast, your bowels are going to move at the rate or the speed of which your body wants them to move. And there's nothing that you need to do in order to particularly move them. Now, the reason I know that can confuse some people is because they think, well, nothing's moving, everything's just sitting. I got to get things out. Well, that's not necessarily true, right? Your body is going through a process of where it's actually going through and it's scraping or it's using I can never say this word, peristaltic action. It is the muscle that tenses in the bowels, right? And what that muscle will do when you are fasting, it will calm down. But when the body is cleansing itself, there's nobody that can come inside and clean the body. So it has to clean itself by squeezing and doing things. And what you will notice on long fasts is that when you use the bathroom, so after usually about the first couple of days, you'll use the bathroom, you'll have a movement, and then typically you may have another one around day 8 or day 9, and then you may see little ones happen, 3-4 days after that, and then you may see a little happen a little bit after that. But you will then start to see that your bowel movements start to get a lot darker. You'll see that they are not just little strands or little droplets like constipation. You will have movements and they will look different. They'll be more dense and they'll be darker in color. That's because the bowels themselves are cleaning the walls of themselves off. And that's one of the benefits of that fasting period. Now, if you are experiencing pain in the bowels during a fasting process, then you can do an enema, right? You can do a water enema. You can do it at home, right? You don't have to go you don't have to go crazy. You can do it at home. Just stimulate the bowels. What has been collected, it will flush out. Or you can, of course, go to get hydrotherapy done or a colonic in a facility and have a colonic therapist then help you go through that process if you don't want to do it at home. But in general, you do not have to move them unless you are experiencing pain or you're going through some sort of bowel cleansing protocol. See, people will a lot of times take these different things and they'll kind of mix them and mash them and they'll create their own, oh, this is what I should do because X and X said I should do this. But you don't know why they said that you should do it. Unless you're going through a bowel cleansing protocol or something of that nature, or you're working on your bowels or you're doing something specific for your bowels, then if you're fasting and you're water fasting, let it do its thing. And unless you're experiencing pain, like, oh, I have some pain, I'm feeling constipated, then just you're good. Just let it do its thing. It's cleansing itself out. I promise you. I've seen lots of stuff from myself and from other people during water fasting, not even doing these cleanses, just water. So let your body do its thing. I think Rosalie said it earlier. We've gotten away from being our understanding and letting our body do what it naturally wants to do. Fasting takes you out of the mix and says, body, do what you naturally want to do. Just let it do what it naturally wants to do. We think that we're so smart and we think that we know everything, but we really don't. Yeah. So what fasting does is it says, you know what? Like we say, Jesus, take the wheel.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Body, take the wheel. You do what you want to do and naturally let it do what it wants to do.
Yeah. I love that. That's how I always tell people, like, God created our bodies to do some really incredible things. We've just been messing them up for so long that they're not doing them anymore.
We're just in the mix because we always want to touch something. Like we always like just like
I wonder what this does.
Yeah, like stop touching stuff.
And Stephen had a great point. I was just going to mention, and I wish I had it here. Of course, I didn't know this was going to come up in the conversation, but I actually have a constipation salve. It's like an ointment, a balm, and I put that on my navel and down in the lower area where and I mean, I'm telling you, it works like magic. Like, and that you're not ingesting anything. I'll put a little lemon water in if I'm doing a longer fast, and the lemon, because it has vitamin C in it, will help the bowels move. But you can get it on Amazon, and I can take a picture and send it to you, Chris, so you can share. But when I tell you it works like magic, you just rub it on your navel, inside of your navel, and around your belly button, and it will help to release your bowels without you taking anything.
I like it.
All right, one more question here. Excuse me. All right. Simone asks, is it safe to orally ingest castor oil and do a castor pack on the same day?
Yeah,
Chris?
I mean, you could do them both on the same day. That's not anything that I've ever done. The castor pack, so depending on where you put your castor pack, I'm assuming if you're listening to us, we're talking about like the liver. We usually recommend putting on the liver. So ingesting castor oil is more like a laxative. When you put it a particular place, it's designed to kind of like break up sludge, and it will move the bowels too, especially depending on where you put it.
Mhm.
But usually it's a little more mild if you use it through the skin versus no, it's a lot more mild. So, I probably wouldn't do them at the same time, but I mean, you can look, it's okay, it's safe to experiment, but man, I don't know. I'm assuming you've done the castor oil orally before. You know how powerful it is. So I just wouldn't do them at the same time. If I'm gonna do them, I'll do the castor oil earlier in the day, and then like I said, I like to sleep with the castor pack. But I would not do is do the castor pack at night for bedtime and do the castor oil orally at night for bedtime. That would not happen. So um yeah, just keep doing them separately. It's okay if they overlap, I guess, but it's not like it's gonna supercharge the benefit or something. Does anybody, Steve, you got any? I don't have anything for that really.
No, I mean honestly, I mean everything that you said is what I would have said. I mean, they kind of work in two different ways. So the castor oil pack, like when I do it on the liver, it doesn't make me like run to the bathroom, right? But when I orally take it, it gives me a very smooth release in the morning. So for me, I mean, I don't see an issue with it because they're doing two different things. It's the same oil, but they're in two completely different parts of the body. So at the same time, I don't see there being an issue with it. This is one of those things that just don't overthink it.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
And
that's interesting too. She said Barbara O'Neill was talking about how strong castor oil is. And I've heard some other experts talk about how like if you put that in your mouth, you will go to the bathroom immediately. So it's interesting to hear you say, Stephen, that it just makes you go smoothly the next morning.
right.
Yeah, not definitely not immediately, but the next morning, it definitely will get you going, especially
Yeah.
if you had a rough weekend or something, or you're like, hey, I didn't do so well. I mean, my castor oil is right here. You know what I mean? It's right there. Just a little tablespoon of that.
Tablespoon.
Yeah. And I found the order. I went back to my order. So I don't know if you guys can see it or not, but it's Dr. Cole's Herbal Remedies. And it says for constipation formula, 100% organic, wild-crafted ingredients, self-healing formula from nature.
How do you spell his name? Coles?
Oh,
Dr.
I see
Cole,
it.
COLE''S. It's an herbal balm constipation formula created for relief from sluggish bowel movements and bloating, safe for the whole family. You can even use it on babies.
All right, I put it in the chat.
Oh,
That's the
Okay.
benefit
nice.
of natural products.
Oh yeah, I found it.
All
On
right.
Amazon. Cool.
Dr.
There it is.
Cole.
Boom. Amazon.
Listen, I like a
Nice.
good salve, man. People hear those terms, they're like, what's a salve? It's an herbal ointment that you rub on yourself. That's all it
Right.
is.
Right.
Oh, you dropped the link. Okay, good deal.
Yep, I found it on Amazon there. So, Chris, you want to wrap us up here? Tell us again about the R72 challenge. I am like tempted to do it, but I just started this 9-week workout, and we were talking about I can't be working out while doing rolling 72s because I'm eating like 3,000 calories a day. It's crazy. Yeah, isn't that nuts? Like I burn through it. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, man. So the challenge, this is our most popular challenge. Um, it starts May 26th, which is a Sunday. We're gonna do a live stream. It'll be probably about, I think it will be at 7 o'clock Central Time. So make sure that you join ahead of time. It comes with a PDF guide. We also, this challenge has a quick start guide. So, if you join early, which, you guys will be about 10 days early right now, you'll get a quick start guide where you can kind of just start working on stuff today. And then about 2 days, 3 days before the challenge starts, you're going to get an invitation to the secret membership area. We host that on AHA Communities. So it is not Facebook. I know people always ask, it's not Facebook, so you don't have to worry about that. You're going to be in the secret area over the duration of 30 days. So that's how long the challenge runs. We have what, Steve, 6 coaches on staff that help us with these challenges. As well as, we've got our admin team for questions and things of that nature. So you are well supported. We have, I think it's been a while since I think I want to say maybe 21 hours of content comes with it. I think, don't quote me on that. That might be high, but what I will say is you guys get access to archived live streams. So we've done this challenge. We've been doing this challenge for 2 years. So you'll have more content than you know what to do with. It'll be coming out of your ears. In addition to that, we do live streams with the coaching team in real time. So if you got a question as it relates to like the challenge in real time, maybe you didn't hear the answer on some of the older content, you can actually ask. You can submit a form. You can ask your question. We'll answer the question. So there's a tremendous amount of support. And then I also always encourage people, like within the group, I would encourage you guys to interact, make friends. You'd be surprised. AHA is all over the nation and international. And we've got people from all over the place that join these challenges. There's a feature where you can find someone close to you and you can interact if you guys want to do something locally. Because the way this challenge goes is you fast for 3 days, then you're going to eat for 1 day. On the day you eat, maybe you get locally with somebody else in the group and you guys eat together. You can cook together. You can make it a group thing, a community thing. Someone earlier was talking about like how to get motivated, how to get started. My key, immerse yourself in the community and make sure that you use the community as a touch point daily, especially if you're not a great self-starter. Use the energy from other people to help start your engine, you know? This is the benefit of a crowd. You get synergy from it. And that is the secret ingredient, I think, that makes these challenges so successful. I saw somebody in the chat say that they lost 25 pounds with our fasting blitz. We did a 5-2 fasting blitz I think we started in April. They lost 25 pounds. So we are doing it. We're losing the weight. People are having success. And this helps to just keep everything outlined. Maybe you need to do what Rosalie did and make a bet. Wager some money or wager something of significance to you. If you don't start this challenge, if you don't get further than you've ever gotten, if you don't complete the challenge, whatever the bet needs to be, then you lose access to Facebook. You lose access to social media. Maybe you lose access to your phone for a period of time. Or maybe money is your pain point, right? Or maybe it's some vice you have. Like, challenge yourself because you guys are capable. But being in the challenge and getting this more nuanced interaction from coaches, similar to what you guys got today, right? Just similar to this type of interaction, it helps because you can ask those questions and you might get a answer that resonates with you. Because I can answer, Steve can answer, Jessica can answer, Rosalie can answer. One of the answers is going to resonate more. And this is why we have the coaching staff and this large community. Someone in the community might answer your question. So this is what you guys get with it. The registration is $98. You guys can add a journal or a book. You can also add the premium accountability membership to your package, to your registration. So you guys can add more if you want to, or you could do the basic registration, $98. That's it. Justin, I'm like, okay, Justin, that's it. We're done. I forgot.
Yeah, no, this is your show.
This is my show. So anyway, guys, this has been an absolute pleasure. Like, this is so fun. It's so fun. Justin, me and you, we've been doing this for a little bit. Rosalie, thank you for joining us tonight on the panel. Steve, I know I hit you up last minute. Thanks for hopping in. This has been incredible. We have more lives coming this week. We're going to be pushing the R72, so we're going to be promoting that a lot, so you guys can join and just get more of this. And I'm gonna give everybody an opportunity to kind of like say some final thoughts. If you guys want to throw your social media out there, and then we're gonna go ahead and close it. Rosalie, go ahead, start it off. I thought somebody would go ahead.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So, just in closing, I just want to encourage everyone who's listening in to not give up on yourself. You've got to love yourself more than the world loves you. You really just have to do this for you. And it's easier to not quit than it is to restart. So get in, stay in, and just drive yourself to your final destination, where it is that you want to be with your weight loss or with your health journey. At the end of the day, this is all about you. You get one body, one vehicle. You've got to drive it to the max, live on full and die on empty, and you can do this.
All right,
Yeah, and I
Steve.
just
Live
Oh,
on whole and die on empty. I like that. Drive that thing to the max. Listen, in closing, I just want to encourage everybody that is here. I think that for me, one of the biggest things that my biggest takeaway personally, is people sometimes we're afraid of actually being great. And I know that sounds crazy because it's just like, well, no, I want to be great. But it's just like, but do you? Right? It's not that we're afraid to get to the destination, it's the journey, because we know the work that it's going to take. And it is a level of fear. It's a level of not wanting to fail. And we touched on Rosalie touched on like the mindset and our subconscious and how it plays a huge role into the things that we do. And you really don't understand, a lot of people don't really understand how much the experiences that you've had as a child and as a teenager, and even if you grew up being overweight, how much that plays a role into what you're experiencing right now and why you may be struggling. So there was just another little bit there that I just want to highlight. Like, so, and Rosalie and Justin talked about this, right? Our identity, the person that we truly believe that we are, we have to focus on changing that person, right? A lot of times we focus on changing our habits, like, oh, well, I'm going to drink water. That's a habit, right? But instead, like, so, and Justin I love that when you spoke about, having an issue with like drugs before in the past, I had an issue with alcohol, right? And there's a difference between somebody that says that, hey, listen, I'm not drinking, right? So for me, I would say, yeah, I'm not drinking tonight, right? There's a difference between somebody that says I'm not drinking and someone that says I'm not a drinker,
yeah, I don't
right?
drink.
And or I don't drink. Like there's a difference, right? There's a difference between somebody that says I'm not going to do this and someone who says I don't do this, right? They're not the same. And at the same time, right, we're both basically saying we're deciding not to have alcohol, but one of them is saying that I'm consciously making an effort not to do this, and the other person says this is not in my makeup. This is not who I am. And we need to start looking to change our identity or the makeup of who we are. And that takes time, right? So if you guys don't know me or you don't follow me, you can follow my social medias at Stephen Michael Wellness. Spelled just like you see it, right? Stephen Michael. Don't spell my name with a V, please, because you won't find me, right? Stephen with a PH, Michael Wellness. And also I would I dropped a little note in the chat earlier. But if you guys, want some additional free resources, I have a newsletter that I started a few weeks ago. And as of right now, the newsletter is really about habits and making some of those changes and helping to kind of shift your identity. And the last newsletter I put out was Sunday, was about our environment and how that helps to mold and shift our identity. So it's completely free. If you would like to join, I just dropped the link again. Just take a second and put your email in there. If ever you want to unsubscribe, you absolutely can do so. But it's a free resource that obviously is always going to be about health and wellness, fasting, weight loss, recipes, tips and tricks, things of that nature. So, but thank you for spending your time here with us.
Yeah. I don't think I could say anything better than Rosalie and Steven just said it. I mean, that's you know, we always talk about, and people, when they come and they want to lose weight, they want to change their lives, they talk about, we know it's a lifestyle change, right? But what does that actually mean? And for me and all of the people that I've coached, that's what it is. It's an identity change where you change your identity over time. And then one day you wake up and you're like, I just do these things because it's who I am, right? So yeah, I mean, I was just gonna say, like, I'm honored to be here. I always learn so much from you guys. I appreciate you letting me be a part of this. If you guys want to see some of the videos that I make, you can find me on YouTube, Justin Dorff. They're a little goofy at times, but fasting, nutrition, and just different challenges that I'm putting myself through. Because my big thing too is, and that's why I'm pushing for this R72 challenge too, for anybody who's interested, is because I'm all for testing things out. Like, you can't know what works for you and what doesn't work for you unless you test it out on yourself. And just like all these comments coming in about how you like this Zoom call, I think that's really important what Chris said. You can get a community with that R72 challenge that's just like this, other people going through this with you. Like, there's going to be challenges, there's going to be struggles, but there's going to be people alongside of you helping you get through them, and you'll probably get some pretty sweet results as well. So thank you again, this has been fun.
All right, y'all. I saw the comment about the herbs. Listen, I talked to the herbalist this week. He sent me up, like, y'all know how you talking to somebody and they send you a book, right? It's a text message, but it's actually a book, like a manuscript. That's all the excuses and all the and everything's going on. I'm supposed to be getting herbs next month at this point, but the reason I'm not updating you guys is because he has not been accurate with his um dates and time. Nothing's been accurate. So I would just look like a fool telling you, if I told y'all what he's told me. Oh yeah, we'll have the herbs next month. Oh yeah, we'll have the herbs next month. Oh yeah, it'll be next month. Next thing you know, it's next year.
Yeah.
So the herbs are kind of a sore spot for me, because it's been, you guys have no idea the amount I invested to make sure that this didn't happen, and then it happened anyway. So the hopefully they'll be in stock before the challenge ends, but you guys will know. I'll let you know when I get them. They're coming. Trust me, they coming, but when, I don't know. So there we will have a recording of this video available. Justin, I think, will have it on his channel, and I'll have it on my channel as well. So you guys can go and check it out, and check the replay out, comment, interact. You could be like, hey, I was in there live. But that's all we got for you all tonight. I did put the link to join the challenge in the chat several times. If you guys need anything, if you can't find it, or if you miss it, whatever, if you're watching it later, the link will be in the video. It'll be in the chat of the video, in the comment section of the video, the description box. So that's it. Thank you all for staying, and we will see you guys in the challenge. Good night.
Nice.